Aloha. It's your favorite friend with questionable character. Aloha, Mr. Hand. Coming to you on this fine Saturday, January 16th, with the latest edition of the 108 Tourney Bracketology. Of course, this is brought to you by our friends at From the 108, and of course, powered by Jack Daniels. I'll be having a little bit later. So today I get to do one of my favorite things of the year. I get to write and also now add on this video about the newbies in the 108 tourney, the people who will be dancing for the first time. Or let me back up and say the people that I think will be dancing for the first time in the 108 tournament. So yes, this is the newbie edition of 108 Bracketology. The general premise is that I pay attention throughout the year on Twitter, as does the 108 selection committee, and find people who are adding value, adding humor, adding knowledge to the White Sox fan base through their Twitter accounts. So I've gone throughout the year and I've made notes, and I have what I believe to be five candidates for possible appearance in the 108 tourney. And I'm going to bring those to you now. So let's start with candidate number one. And these are not in any kind of order of strength of anything. It's just 5 candidates as I wrote it up. So it's not like there's an order here saying number 1 is the most likely, number 5 is the least likely, or anything like that. Just 5 candidates. So sequencing has nothing to do with where I think they land on anything. So the first person that I wanted to talk about was Peyton. Twitter handle at SoxBearPeyton. Okay, first, how can you go wrong with someone who has socks in their Twitter handle? Second, add on having bear in their Twitter handle. And finally, most of all, maybe having their name, and maybe, just maybe, speculation on my part, the name being a tribute to the greatest running back and possibly the greatest bear of all time. You cannot go wrong with this combination. So she is a dedicated sports fan and is always watching some form of sports, is not afraid to give her opinion on how the teams or players are performing, and you can always find her tweeting some form of sporting event on her TV. So I think she presents a strong case for appearing. Only time will tell. And again, remember, I am not part of the selection committee, so if you feel you should have been selected and weren't, don't talk to me. The selection committee, as I've said before, it could get interesting how that function works and the dynamic that goes on there, especially because they're probably 108ing while doing it. So just always bear that in mind. Second person I wanted to talk about, let me preface before I say the person, let me say that if you ever want to understand how to make yourself known to the 108 selection committee, you do something like this person did. It is a masterclass in making yourself known to the committee and putting yourself out there. The person is Showtime Sox, Twitter handle at Showtime Sam with 2 M's at the end. So it's Sam, S-A-M-M. If you have not seen the video he did from the parking lot of Guaranteed Rate Field outside of the Sports Depot, I suggest you go back in his timeline and watch it. This is a masterclass on how to get recognized. He absolutely hit it out of the park. And to be honest with you, if I were a betting man, and I am not betting on this, but if I were a betting man and he did not make the tourney, all I could say is I'd have to wear these sunglasses to hide the shock in my eyes, because I'd be shocked, I tell you, shocked. Shout out Kenny Williams. So the next person is Darren Brown. Twitter handle at _DBrown_23. First off, let's just say he's got 23 in his Twitter handle. So it's obviously a tribute to the 2 greatest number 23s in Chicago history, Robin Ventura and Jermaine Dye. Yes, I'm joking. I know someone else who wore number 23 who won 6 titles and has the initials of MJ. Okay? It's a joke. But uh, Darren is the resident University of Illinois broadcaster of the future. This is someone who it would not shock me in 20 years to see, oh, Darren Brown will be the new broadcaster for the new radio voice of the White Sox or the new TV voice of the White Sox. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. Plus, also want to make note of something about Darren specifically. Recently, he turned 21, and he will need the 108's help in nurturing and supporting him to help achieve what I truly believe is his ultimate goal. That is to be the next generation My Sox Summer. So everybody needs to help him get there. So remember that. The next person is Ed Siebert. Now you may ask, who is Ed Siebert? Ed Siebert, Twitter handle, Ed Siebert ESQ. So it's EDSIEBERTESQ. And yes, I had to look down to make sure I got it right in the spelling, because I don't want to point you to the wrong person and you go, why are you pointing me to this person? Because they're weird or whatever it may be. So I don't want to deal with that. So I'm looking to make sure I give you the right info. Ed is the new partner of Chris Lanuti on the Sox in the Basement podcast. And if you have not heard the Crush show that, or the shows that Sox in the Basement did with From the 108 last week, where they recorded the Sox in the Basement show first, 30 minutes of Sox knowledge from a basement on the south side of Chicago, Evergreen Park actually, but we won't say nothing. And then the video and podcast for the 108, which lasted like forever, about 2.5 hours. So Ed absolutely nailed it, did a great job. He writes some stuff for Sox in the Basement. It's available on the Sox in the Basement website. I highly suggest going out there and reading it. And one more advantage of Ed is, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe the ESQ means he's a lawyer because it's Esquire. The 108 can always use a good lawyer. Just keep that in mind. The last person that I am going to talk about is Kevin Fiddler, Twitter handle @KFids. Now, this is the saucy, controversial pick because Kevin is a Cub fan. Now, you may ask, how in the world can you have a Cub fan on here? And I know a Cub fan. There were a couple of Cub fans who were actually in the tourney last year. One self-acknowledged that they were a Cub fan, and the other who would call other people Cub fans, and then comes out that there's a picture of him wearing Cub gear and everything else. So, take that for what it's worth. But with Kevin, I will say, Kevin is the partner of New Father Zoe, Southside Zoe, I Don't Get No More Sleep Zoe, I'm a New Dad Zoe, cheating Aloha Mr. Han out of Golf Zoe. I could keep going with these, but he is Father Zoe's partner on the Pinwheels and Ivy podcast. He brings an incredible amount of knowledge about baseball and everything else. Like I said, he's a Cub fan, but secretly, I honestly believe secretly, he is a Sox fan who just is afraid to admit it because the Cubs are the cool, trendy team, and he likes being that cool, trendy guy and everything else. Plus, I believe he coached some former MVP for the Cubs in 2016 in high school or something, but whatever. So I honestly believe Kevin is a Sox fan wannabe. He just needs the proper help, support, and push to get him to finally admit that he wants to be on the right side of town cheering for the right team. Not that dumpster fire in a dumpster ballpark on the north side. And I'm sure that the Cub fan that was in last year's tourney who wouldn't admit he's a Cub fan will probably be very upset about that. I don't care. So those are the picks that I have. Remember, there's still a chance for you to get recognized. Get out there and do something. Let people see your creativity. Let people see your knowledge. Don't be afraid to let it hang out there. And, the selection committee is meeting in a few weeks. You still got at least another month before the selection committee meets and nails everything down. I'll probably be doing one more of these just about the 108 tourney and what to expect, when to expect it, and everything else before it actually happens. Sometime probably late February. But as more details come along, they will definitely get out to everybody so that you know what to expect and when to expect it. But again, like I said, the tourney selection committee, if I could say that straight, can be interesting at times because you know there'll be one awaiting while doing it. So take that for what it's worth. I hope everyone has a great day. And with that, I'm done. Bang.